This is NLPS ED Talks, a podcast brought to you by Nanaimo Ladysmith Public Schools. I'm Dale Burgos, the Executive Director of Communications, and I'll be sharing conversations with students, staff, and friends of the district. We'll learn, we'll laugh, we may cry, but most importantly, we'll share the unique stories of individuals that work and play in our school system. Nanaimo Ladysmith Public Schools is one of many school districts in British Columbia, Canada, and is centrally located in one of the most beautiful places in the world, Vancouver Island. Thanks for joining us. Artificial intelligence refers to the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that would typically require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and language translation. ChatGPT is a large language model that uses natural language processing and machine learning to generate human-like responses to text-based inputs. AI and language models like ChatGPT have many practical applications in our daily lives, from virtual assistants like Siri and Alexa to personalized recommendations on Netflix and Amazon. They also have the potential to revolutionize industries such as healthcare, finance, and transportation by automating repetitive tasks and providing valuable insights. Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the NLPS ED Talks podcast. That opening remark that I just shared with you, I actually went on to ChatGPT and asked what I should say at the opening of my podcast, and it was a bit of an introduction into AI and ChatGPT in specific. My guest today, very excited, first time on the NLPS ED Talks podcast, is Zeyad Merchant. He is our Director of IT. Hello.
Hi, Dale.
Good day, sir. I'm excited to have you on here, as I always am. I'm excited to have guests on the podcast. And this one in particular is something top of mind, very timely, and I thought it would be good to have you on here to chat about it.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. First of all, thank you for inviting me on the show.
Of course.
On the esteemed NLPS podcast show.
The esteemed. Well, we are award-winning. Look at behind me, right?
I see that.
We've got the award here. Okay, let's just get into it a little bit here. As I always do on all of our podcasts, I always like to get to know some of our guests, right? Because people listening, driving, working out, whatever, they want to know who I'm talking to. So, Zeyad, a little bit of history here. How long have you been with the district now?
So I started in 2019.
2019
Yeah,
already.
so this is going on my year 4.
Yes. So pre-COVID, pre-COVID.
Well, I would say, it seemed like minutes before COVID. and for a while it seemed like that was my tenure here was COVID. But I'm glad that phase has passed and behind us, and we're moving on to a lot of different things now.
Yep, very excited. No kidding. Well, and I'm extremely happy to have you here. I've watched the IT department grow by leaps and bounds, and the work that's being done out of the department. You're doing a great job. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dale.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi has never been better.
I've learned that give people good Wi-Fi. It's all they need.
Yes, I think I've said this before on the podcast, and the kids at home. One of the worst things that could happen is no Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi's down, and when it goes down, it's like instant. You never see the kids all day long, not even for dinner or lunch. Wi-Fi goes down, seconds. They're in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you finally realize that you've got family that you can talk to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, while we're on that topic, talking about family, you have some kids in the system, right?
I do. I have two girls in school here at Nanaimo, and doing really well. Yeah,
Excellent.
We like it here.
Now, you've before 2019, so before coming into the district, where did you come from?
So prior to my appointment here, I was with the Sea to Sky School District, based out of Squamish. So we looked after Squamish, Whistler, and Pemberton. And before that, I was in private industry. I was with Global Television and Shaw Communications for quite a few years.
Very nice. See, okay, so coming from another district, another beautiful part of the province, right? Smaller district, though, right?
Quite a bit smaller.
Quite a bit smaller.
About a third the size. Yeah.
Oh, a third the size. Okay. And then coming from private industry. Yes. So just like me, you worked in broadcasting.
I did.
Nice.
Yeah. I feel like I found a brother here in Nanaimo.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I worked for a competitor. I didn't work for Global. Still we can be friends. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. I don't feel bad about always beating you in the ratings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Okay. Awesome. I love it, and like I always do, I like to get to know. I like to share, who the person is that I'm talking with here as well. A little bit what do you do? What do you like to do when you're not working? And I mean, I know we're always working, Zeyad, but what are your hobbies?
Well, I mean, I have a few.
Okay.
Meaning
Let's hear 'em.
really just a few. But there are so many things that I enjoy in life. Of course, my family and my kids
Nice.
are the biggest priority and the most give me the most joy in life. They're young kids. My wife and I started a little bit later than most, and so they keep us young.
Nice.
We love the camping. As you know, I've got an old Volkswagen bus, and
Yes.
that takes up a lot of my time and
Yeah.
passion. I've got a motorcycle just like you, and I've been spending a bit of time on that, trying to get that on the road.
There you go.
So any free time we get, we try and enjoy the outdoors here when we can. Such a beautiful location that we moved to, with everything at your doorstep. Yeah.
You know what? I have to say, moving to the island from the prairies, I'm like you. I am really enjoying the outdoors. I've been here for about 8 years now, and it is one thing I remember when I found a doctor here when I first moved here. He goes, "Congratulations, you added 5 years to your life." And I went, "What do you mean by that?" He goes, people are healthier here in BC, on the island in particular. So you made the right move. And then once you get that bike going, I think people will see us on that road together.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Who are those two guys? What, Peter Fonda and who am I thinking? What movie is that? I'm gonna have to find out. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about? Two guys on the motorcycle. Oh, geez, this is years ago now.
Yeah. I can't remember.
But Peter Fonda and oh man, I can't remember. It's okay. People at home listening to this, they're just yelling out the name of this movie, and we just can't place it. Okay, the reason why we have you here on the show, Zeyad, and again, thanks for sharing some of your personal. Personal stories. We got to talk about AI, and this is a hot topic right now, and I think it's going to be a hot topic for a really long time. Like I had mentioned, I grabbed that statement off of ChatGPT. Those of you who don't know what ChatGPT, maybe that will be my first question. So maybe what is ChatGPT, or what does it stand for?
So the GPT part stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer.
Okay.
So that's Generative Pre-trained Transformer. It's been GPT and ChatGPT actually have been around for a few years.
Oh,
2017-ish,
Really?
I'm going to say.
okay.
It just became a sensation months ago,
Yeah.
in November, December of last year,
Okay.
when it was publicly released and suddenly accessible to anyone. Like, any ordinary person could get on the internet, sign up for an account, and start using this new AI
Okay.
called ChatGPT, which is, generative artificial intelligence. And you talked about what AI is in the opening here, but it's there's branches of AI. This one here has to do with being able to ask the AI in natural language questions on just about any topic, and have the let's call it the chatbot respond to you in a way that is almost indistinguishable from a human response on any topic. So you can
Wow.
ask it a question in a little text box, any question, you name it. You want to ask about a general knowledge question, you can make a request. You could say, write me a recipe with the following 6 ingredients
Yes.
that can be cooked and feed a family of 4 in an hour and a half.
Come on.
You can ask it to write a poem.
Mhm.
You can ask it to write a poem in a certain style.
Yes.
You can ask it to write you a legal agreement. You set the parameters. Your prompt, which is the actual context or the text of your request to ChatGPT, can be many, many, many words long. So you can put all sorts of different parameters on that question.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
You could ask it to write you a rap.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
A song,
A
right?
song. You can ask it to compose music.
Wow. Okay.
And what it does is so this is a pre-trained LLM or large language model,
Okay.
right? So AI is basically, like you said earlier, it's the ability for a computer system to generate or to behave in ways that really is associated with human intelligence, right? So perception, translation,
Right.
reasoning, those kinds of things. And the responses you get from ChatGPT are very much that natural language one. So it's trained on vast amounts of knowledge, basically everything that's publicly available on the internet, up until a certain point about 2021. Right, then that's when they stopped. So that's a subset of data that was given it, that was fed it,
Yep.
to learn everything that it knows, ends in 2021. But what it does, just like, and we could talk for hours. Well, I couldn't.
Easily.
I mean, the experts
Yep.
could, on how artificial intelligence actually works. There's humans involved in developing these models, and they use what's called neural networks, which is a way to sort of simulate brains, human brains,
Yes.
right? And machine learning. You talked about machine learning is the ability for a computer system to learn how to, from the data that it's been fed, to give you a kind of response that isn't programmed explicitly. Now, when you took programming in school, you learned that you can write code, give a computer a specific set of instructions, and it'll spit out to you the results of your instructions. But you had to get those instructions correct, otherwise the computer is not going to work.
Right.
And I'm really simplifying this, and you're probably going to get all sorts of comments on this, but machine learning basically allows the computer system to learn how to respond to things without explicit instructions
Right.
on its own.
So, okay, you mentioned a lot of things here, and so I mean, we can easily talk about this. I've done a lot of reading. I've played around with ChatGPT, as many people who maybe are listening right now have, just to see what it's like. Okay, so you talked about learning, right? So neural network, and I have to chuckle because there's some people who are afraid of AI, right? And is it because we've watched movies like Terminator, for example? Okay, this is a perfect example of AI, right? Artificial intelligence. The robots taken over, and then all of a sudden there's this war, and it's made the movies have made billions of dollars worldwide. So there's that piece of it, but there's also the beneficial piece to it, and I'll talk about the implications rather, of what it has for education. We'll get into that a little bit later, and maybe we can't get through it all in this one podcast. We'll do another one, but I think that just a taste of what ChatGPT or AI or OpenAI is, I think it's definitely, I think, our goal for this podcast. So you know what, I see you have your laptop open. Maybe grab it, because now I'm thinking, I was thinking of that movie, right? Trying to figure out who was in that movie. So I couldn't think of it, and this wasn't planned. We just started thinking of that. And I'm going, okay, well, let's ask ChatGPT. This is very similar to if we use Siri or Alexa, like I'd mentioned in the intro. There's AI surrounding us right now, right? So if you're going on to a chat, you're trying to get hold of Bell or Rogers online, and you're asking questions, that's a bot, right? So that's essentially AI that's talking to you. It's not Jazz or somebody else talking to you. It's really the computer having that conversation. And I noticed I ask the questions and it'll answer as if it's a real person, and it's fascinating to me. Okay, now you started typing there. What did you type in?
I was anticipating that we were going to ask ChatGPT about the movie that you were referring to.
Right? So what motorcycle movie with Peter Fonda? What's the name of the movie that had Peter Fonda in it?
Well, so how about I ask it this?
Okay, let's.
What is the name of the movie with two men traveling on motorcycles?
Yeah.
Featuring Peter Fonda, right?
Yes. Let's see what happens. Don't let us down.
So I'm gonna have to. I logged into this session quite some time ago.
Okay, so you got to log back in again.
Yeah.
See, because I often use Siri, or I often go onto Google and does that and get my answers on there as well. So while you're doing that, like I said, we're gonna be mentioning a few different things. And so you talked a little bit about specifically ChatGPT, so conversational generative pre-trained transformer. You talked about AI more specifically, and we're talking about other platforms. Let's just talk about some comparatives. First off, though, were you able to log in?
Well, this is what I did.
Okay.
And this is actually quite relevant. So
Okay.
what I did is I switched out of ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's in such high demand
Oh, yes.
that you get booted out
Right.
sometimes, and
Yeah.
then you can't get back in.
Yeah.
Now, there's also a plus version which allows you to pay a small amount of money per month,
Right.
That gives you sort of front of the line access to it.
Yes.
But what I did instead of going through all that and logging in or whatever, creating an account, I just went to a search engine called Bing. Now, everyone knows about Google.
Yes.
And remember, you heard about Yahoo and Altavis in the old days. Now, Bing is one of the less popular, has been one of the less popular search engines out there.
Right.
It's a Microsoft product.
Yes.
What Microsoft had done as one of the big investors, early and even present investors into ChatGPT,
Huh.
they've incorporated
Yeah.
GPT into their search.
Really?
So now you can go into Bing
Yep.
and type in the question, what is the name of the movie with two men traveling on motorcycles featuring Peter Fonda?
Yeah.
Now, everyone in the world's done a Google search. You type that in, what do you get? You get a page full of
Yeah.
possible search matches. They'll
Yes.
take your search string, and with Google's engines, they'll deliver to you all matching websites,
Yes.
right? With the possible answer.
Okay.
And what do you normally do? You see the little, maybe you don't notice anymore, but you'll have a little counter at the top that says, giving you the first 12 of 3 million
Yes. Seen that.
responses.
Yep.
No one's ever gone through the 3 million responses. They take the first 2 or 3.
Right.
And what you do is you find yourself surfing from one result to the next
Yes.
to find out which website Google served to you actually does contain the answer.
Right.
Right? And there's also, Google is basically built on the model of, advertising. So it's doing this for free for you, right? You're not paying for it directly.
Yep.
But what they're doing is the searches that you're getting from Google, what you're receiving, often depends on, or can sometimes depend on, who's paying Google to be the first of the first few
Right.
results,
Yep.
because it's advertising,
Yep.
and B, how popular are these websites. The more popular websites out there, the higher the traffic these websites receives, the more chances they'll be in your first page or two of
Yes.
the Google
Right.
results.
And that's a little bit of search engine optimization, correct? SEO. I've heard that
Exactly,
before.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
So now, if you do a search engine, and people are quite worried about this, it's sort of disrupting the whole Google search industry.
Oh, interesting.
Now, instead of competing on that basis, where you're trying to get people to be drawn to your website to deliver you, so that you can deliver them searches and then start deriving revenue out of those searches.
Yep.
Bing has gone and said, "Oh, we're just going to put a little chat bot in there."
Okay.
And so when you ask a question, you have the option of going to the chat answer, and it'll serve you one answer,
Right.
not tens or hundreds or millions of
Gives you
answers.
the one answer.
The one answer that it's received, or that is provided from its pre-trained model,
Right.
right?
Okay.
And it'll also provide you with references and things like that, just to make sure that it's quoting its sources too, right?
Okay.
So the answer here is it's one answer. The movie you're referring to is called Easy Rider.
There it is.
It is a
you're killing me.
1969 American independent
Yeah.
road drama film written by Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, and Tim.
Dennis Hopper.
So Fonda and
Okay.
Hopper play two bikers who travel through the American Southwest and South, carrying the proceeds from a cocaine deal.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not
remember that
surfing
part.
through hundreds of pages
No.
to find that answer. Now, typically, I probably would have gotten the same answer from Google, but this is presenting me as a single answer, and it's almost authoritative, right?
No kidding.
But it does
Yeah.
quote the sources, so it's saying that it's pulling it from footnote 1, Wikipedia, and there's a few other websites
Okay.
that
Yeah,
it's
right.
pulling that data from, right? And this is, and you can now, I can follow up. Ask me a follow-up question about that movie.
Oh, okay. Where was it filmed? I think we kind of know, but let's see.
Okay, give it a couple of seconds to respond.
Okay. Yeah.
You can,
Probably gives you a few answers, I guess, right?
So how would you
Sorry,
typically-
locations. I mean, sorry. Yeah.
So typically, when you want to have that follow, if you have that follow-up question, if you've done your Google search,
Yeah.
you found your answer that it's Easy Rider. Now you have a follow-up question. What would you do? You would retype that whole question. Where was the movie
Right.
Easy Rider filmed?
Yes.
And now you're going to search for multiple answers.
Right.
Right, or multiple results. This chat session remembers what you've already talked about.
So just like
it knows that
ChatGPT.
you're having
It's
a
the same.
conversation
Wow.
with this bot.
Okay. Very cool.
So it converted my answer to my question, where was it filmed?
Yep.
It now is searching for where was Easy Rider filmed. So it took my question
Yeah.
and basically performed my search for me, gave me a single authoritative answer. The movie Easy Rider was filmed in various locations, including, and it gives me addresses, the 11,000 Aviation Boulevard, the Zeyad. Well, it's actually giving me, I hadn't read this yet.
Okay.
So, it's given us about 14 different locations around the world in Las Vegas and Madrid and a whole bunch of other places.
Come on.
Yeah, no.
Very cool.
I don't know if all that
Love
is
it.
true, but it is quoting the sources, so I can go and validate that.
So you can validate it. I love it. And so this is and by the way, this is not a we're not saying Microsoft is best or ChatGPT is best. We're not getting any money for this. I want everyone to know that, even though we are a Microsoft environment here at the office. But I've heard, and actually I did look it up because ChatGPT obviously is one of the popular ones. But what are some of the alternatives? One of them came up as Microsoft Bing, right? There's another one called Perplexity, another one called Google Bard. I don't know if you've heard of those.
So this isn't a Microsoft world at all,
Right.
Exclusively. Companies have been some of the earliest investors into OpenAI, which is a company that owns created ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Microsoft was one of the early investors. Elon Musk was another. A lot of other tech type investors were involved.
Yep.
Google has been involved in AI for many years. DeepMind, I can't remember the name of it, but that's a lot of research that Google has done into AI.
Okay.
But they've also followed up with a new generative pre-trained transformer model called Google Bard, which hasn't gained as much popularity. It hasn't proven yet to be as proficient, but these things are changing every day. So there are other platforms outside of ChatGPT that we've used AI in so many different ways. We face it; it's almost unnoticed now. You mentioned Alexa, and you mentioned Siri. But even things like an image search, you can do an image search, right? You can take a picture on your phone of anything, a product, a flower, an animal, and upload it to a service that can use AI to basically do some image matching and things like that.
Oh, come on.
Right?
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's examples like even your navigation, your GPS navigation, autonomous driving, talking about self-driving cars, and it's actually not talking about it, they're actually doing it, right? That uses AI.
Okay.
Right?
So it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, I even go back to thinking, Kasparov, and he played the computer chess, and that must have been some sort of AI model.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
And almost
that
any
was years
game, when you're playing a game on your smartphone these days, and playing chess, and your opponent is a bot, it's using AI, right? Some of the popular ones that have been around for a while but are just gaining some popularity because everyone is talking about ChatGPT and AI, right? I've written a few down here. Jasper AI. This is an application, a website that does content creation and writing. There's Dolly 2. Dolly 2 is interesting. You can log in, and it's actually also an OpenAI product.
Okay.
You want to create some art or some images. Go to Dolly 2. Type in using text a description of what kind of art you're looking for.
Right.
And it'll generate it for you.
Oh, come
It'll
on.
generate some samples for you.
Unreal.
For you to choose and then alter.
Okay.
So it could be, for example, render me or draw me or create a painting using in oil colors
Yep.
in the style of a Renaissance painter. And you can set the landscape, you can set the setting and the foreground and describe it in text, and it'll do it for you.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, and I don't know if you'd know this, but when you ask it a question, right? So you ask ChatGPT, or if you use Dolly, and could somebody with the same question ask, and then would it come up with the same result? Like for example, if I said, write me a poem about, trees or whatever it is. I mean, I'm not getting specific here. Could it come up with the exact same answer, or is it different every time?
It's going to be different.
Really?
Because it actually is generating a response.
Wow.
This isn't explicit code if you took computer science or computer
Right.
languages in high school, whatever, you knew that if you had a set of programming instructions, let's say of 20 lines of code,
Yeah.
you could just run that same code, repeat it over again. It's going to, in fact, the art was making sure that you get the same result every time. That was a proof that it was working, right? With AI, you remember you're trying to create a system that mimics human intelligence.
Right.
Right. So you're going to have a different response and you can actually try it. You can go to ChatGPT and say, write me a poem on and give your content, your idea.
Yep.
Do it again, and it'll give you something different.
Wow.
It's generating it every time. But the value there is to let me add some nuance to that initial question. So if I don't like your poem, if it's too short, I can say add another page, or I can say, well, do it in the style of Shakespeare.
Wow.
Right? And it'll change it, the same content, right?
Okay, so this really explains a lot of what I've seen online, and when I was researching AI or OpenAI specifically, and ChatGPT, I would ask those types of questions, right? And I tested out asking a question the same way twice, and it did give me a different response. And so I thought that was interesting that you shared that. And I want to get into. And the reason why I asked that question is I want to transition into implications for the education system. And we've heard that it can be used. It can make essays. Like you said, it can make recipes. A lot of it can be done, and within seconds when you ask it that question. Now, there have been some other organizations, education organizations out there that have addressed this publicly and have banned it, right? And I can't recall exactly who. You probably know some of them out there that have. I just want to know what this means for education, and the reason why I wanted to transition to this, of course, is because we are an education institution. But I did ask the question of what are the benefits of using AI in schools. So I'll get to that in just a little bit here, but I wanted to get your feeling on this. Let's go back to that original piece where implications for schools and those organizations that have banned it.
Yeah. So I think early. Really, this has all happened in the last few months.
Right.
And earlier on, one of the first major respondents to this reality of ChatGPT or the implication of ChatGPT was the New York Department of Education,
Okay.
who basically banned it.
Okay.
Right? The implications or the dangers, the risks of ChatGPT were too great for them to allow its adoption, I guess,
Yep.
without some kind of pause on it. Right now, I haven't followed that story much since then.
No, me neither.
Italy,
Okay.
as a country,
As a country,
yes, decided to ban it recently.
I'm curious what the threats are. I mean, what were you
So,
seeing?
so there's, it's unknown, right?
Okay.
The possible implications are huge, positive and negative.
Yeah.
I can tell you that even the creators of OpenAI are saying we actually don't really know where this can go. I mean, it's that powerful, and it's not the end. I mean, it's only going to get more powerful.
Right.
Right. There are implications on things like biases.
Yes.
Right. So if I'm posing harmless questions on movies, what happens when I start posing really important, meaningful questions that that would maybe influence how I think, or vote, or have an opinion on major social topics, right? How are those answers going to influence me
Right.
if I'm relying on that answer as a source of truth? And so the implication there is, and the part that's really important is the governance behind the bodies who are adopting this AI.
Right.
What are their intentions? What is their agenda? The creators of this AI, what kind of bias have they added, embedded into the engines? Is it left leaning, right leaning?
Yeah,
Is it do they have certain do they curate or limit or suppress certain types of content from being produced as responses, right? So implications are quite large from a societal point of view.
No kidding.
Right?
And still very new, obviously, right? This reminds me of social media in the beginning, and how just open and free it was, and everyone was using it. And then, of course, through U.S. elections, you're getting people who are banned. U.S. presidents get banned on Twitter, for example, right, because of how they're using it. And so I'm curious to see where this goes. And obviously this conversation should continue, Zeyad, and I do want to talk about that a little bit more. Let's get back to specifics, though.
Yeah.
You have more.
So the positives,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
There are tons of potential positives in all sorts of industries, but in education, AI and ChatGPT and AI and other AI like it can help do things like help personalize learning. They can provide insights into learning progress, which of course will help student outcomes. They also have the potential to improve the efficiency of administrative tasks. Like any organization, we have a huge operational sort of burden, and things like AI and ChatGPT, if they can help with improve and make them more efficient, that would be again an improved outcome for students, right?
Yep.
I mean, even things like scheduling courses and grading, so not replacing the important people who are providing the education, but that can free up more time so those people who are using up a lot of their time on such administrative tasks can be freed up to spend more, to focus more on teaching and providing personalized learning. Data and insights, we produce tons of data in our organization, and it's really the humans that have to go around and structure all that data together, provide analysis and give feedback and intelligence into how, for example, students are performing, where areas of needs might be. Well, sophisticated learning model like an AI, like a ChatGPT, could come in and do it for us and provide us insights with such speed and accuracy that is unmatched by humans if they were doing it themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, so patterns and trends in student data, things like that. These are the kinds of things where the potential is so powerful.
Yes. I'm with you on that, and I think you and I maybe did sort of the same research when I was looking into this. I asked ChatGPT, what are the benefits of using AI in schools? And a lot of what you had just shared, so you talked about personalized learning, you talked about administrative efficiencies, teacher supports. It even came up with improved student assessment, which I think you mentioned a little bit, predictive analysis, right? So analyzing student data and identifying patterns, exactly what you had just mentioned. Accessibility was another one, so improving accessibility for students with disabilities, right, as such as speech-to-text or text-to-speech tools.
Absolutely.
Yeah, unreal, and there is really quite a bit. It actually gave me this last statement here. Overall, the use of AI in schools has the potential to improve student learning outcomes, support teachers and administrators, and increase efficiency and effectiveness of educational systems. So obviously tooting its own horn, not speaking against AI at all, but there's a lot of truth to this because I have played around with it, and you clearly have as well, and there definitely are some benefits. So thanks for sharing that piece.
Yeah, I think it's just important for us to you can't shut down the technology. It's you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Right. I think our success will be when we've harnessed the positives. We've educated everyone. I mean, students, families, our communities, our teachers on what you can do with this and what you should be aware of. The awareness of bias, the awareness of and the measures you take to still safeguard things like privacy. Right? That's also a big potential risk with the data you're feeding into an AI. For example, how much of confidential information are you giving it? So creating those guidelines and creating those and providing the education so that you're using it appropriately, so that you're not just letting it dictate how you're going to respond to it, right? So being a little bit at the forefront and embracing it and educating people on how it can be best used.
I think that's a great place to stop. I think that what you had just shared, very important. Obviously seeing the benefits. We've even heard from our superintendent, Scott Saywell, and he's spoken about ChatGPT specifically with staff. Encouraged us to even play around with it just to see what it is, just so that we know as educators or people that work in the office like you and I, people are using it, right? So how do we use it? How do we use it properly? Some people have said, well, is the district looking at banning it? We've had that that conversation. There is no plan to keep it out of reach for our students. And like you had mentioned, there's a lot to it. People will find a way to use it, but using it, I think there definitely is a benefit. So, thank you, Zeyad. This is great. We flew by. I think we're over 30 minutes already on this podcast, and we can easily talk a lot more about this. So I'm going to commit to inviting you back into the podcast booth because I think we should continue the conversation. And it'll be interesting to see where, maybe if it's a month or 2 months from now, what's new, what's exciting, what's different in open AI or AI just in general. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming. And you have yourself a great day, Zeyad.
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Dale. It was a lot of fun, and I can guarantee that a whole bunch of new things will have taken place the next time we talk about this.
Thank you.